Hello guys, welcome to a new video, and in today's video we are gonna be taking a look at a scenario where the EU and Iran form an alliance. Now, obviously this is first of all completely unrealistic, as much as some EU countries, like kinda don't like what the US is doing in Iran, you know, that doesn't mean that these European countries are siding with Iran. They're still enemies with Iran. They just simply don't want a war with Iran, since it could risk of, since yes, it has the risk of escalating into a major war, in the whole region, but maybe also even worldwide. Worldwide. And, Europe just wants to focus more on, on I I don't know why it wasn't colored here. Whatever. The EU just simply wants to focus on Ukraine against Russia in general. But this is like a pretty funny video that had the title, EU is about to form alliance with Iran or something like that. So, I decided, why not try this obviously completely unrealistic scenario. So, anyways, yeah. First of all, so yes, just like that. Now, this doesn't mean that, Iran is in the EU. This color here, your blue, it just simply means that Iran is like allied with the EU, but do not think that Iran is part of the EU. So first of all, we need to like count a lot of factors. Now, first of all, it may not really have too much of an impact. Like maybe not a lot of countries are either gonna support this or oppose this. Now, I think that a country will that will obviously oppose this will be like the US, because they are doing stuff in Iran, and they're also not really on the best terms with the EU, despite still technically being partners with Europe. So yeah, the US, no, they don't like it. They don't like it in the slightest. Meanwhile, Russia, they maybe too don't really like this. As technically it's like Iran, like just allying with the Russian enemies. So Europe. But at the same time, Iran is technically Russian. So yeah, Russia, they may have less to say about this, in comparison to the US, but they probably still have to say, but they probably still have a lot of bad stuff to say about this. But then also come the countries that are like in the middle, that are um that are like with the EU, they just like the EU to oppose the war of Iran, but maybe they don't like approve of the whole European Union ideology. An example of a country like this is actually Turkey. Turkey, they've been sort of opposing the war in Iran. They've been talking, against Israel, against the US. So a lot of people just simply burned down the flags of these two countries. In the protests that happened over in Turkish cities. The government too says that they're in support of Palestine. In the Muslim Arab people in general. But I feel like that some trade information, some trade data say something else. Because there's Turkey, they've stopped trading with Israel, but there's also like Azerbaijan, who's a Turkish ally, but it's also an ally of Israel. Azerbaijan likes to trade a lot with Turkey, since they're allies. So we have the oil from Azerbaijan go here to Turkey, and from here they go in the port. And this oil actually ends up going, you already know where. So yeah, Turkey can say whatever about any stop trade with Israel, but I feel like that some information says otherwise. But yeah, I'm not really gonna mention it. Otherwise, I'm just gonna simply gonna get slaughtered by a bunch of Turks in my comments. I mean, not a lot of people watch my videos, but hey, if I one day become famous and receive a lot of comments, I'm gonna have to watch more careful what I say with my mouth, since my life will eventually end up in just a short amount into a short amount of time. Actually, don't worry, I'm joking, kind of. No, not really, I'm joking, I'm joking. So yeah, let's go forward with this scenario now. Actually, we still like to analyze something now. Then there's also like the UK and Canada, like the Canada don't want nothing with the US now, but at the same time they be kind of helping the US, over here in Iran. And I mean, but they also be striving to form some sort of bond with the EU. So yeah, I'm not sure. Also, Norway's interested. Like they're not interested in the EU, but I mean, Norway taking opposing the world in Iran, just like the EU. Also, Norway is friendly with these Nordic countries who are members of the EU. So yeah, you know, it's gonna be a pretty interesting video. So yeah, how can we, make this video begin? I actually don't know. Like now, first of all, I think we have to analyze the fact that most of the EU countries may be in favor of the world, alliance with Iran, especially in inside US function. But maybe some countries in the EU that like hold ties with the US, maybe like, Italy and Slovakia, sort of. I don't know, Bulgaria. I think mostly Italy. Yeah, Italy, for example, they're not really gonna like it. Italy taking about interesting leadership, to say the least. But well, countries like Ireland, France, and Spain, are gonna be more in favor of the whole alliance thing with Iran. So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So, where can we begin this? Like, we could either begin with addressing the whole Middle East thing, or we could either address the whole Ukraine thing. I feel like that addressing this is less controversial than addressing this. So for now, we are gonna be addressing this, so I don't receive any hate. Okay. All right, so we are gonna address. Is it recording? Yeah, yes, it is recording. So first of all, we are gonna address the whole Ukraine thing. Now, just because I'm coloring them in blue does not mean that they're in the EU. It just simply means that I'm showing the aggressor, so Russia, and the victim Ukraine. So we know that Russia has controlled this area of Ukraine for like 4 years at this point, something like that. So, kind of impressive, but at the same time, not really when it's only just a portion of Ukraine as a whole. So yeah, honestly, what can we do with this? Because if Iran is in the EU, then technically Iran may actually not be sending any hate to Russia anymore. So even if Iran kind of wants to still maintain relations with Russia, them being in alliance with you is definitely gonna have an impact on their relationship with Russia. And ironically, it may actually make the relationship between Russia and the US easier, actually. So yeah, we're gonna have to watch out for that. Anyways, for now, we are gonna address the whole situation right now. I know that this is probably just clickbait, what I heard, but I did hear that there are like troops here in Belarus are raised with Ukraine. I don't know how true that is, in the case of this scenario, just to make it more entertaining, we're gonna say that Belarus will actually join the war here inside Russia, and it's actually gonna begin a new issue here in Western Ukraine, which is actually something completely new because ever since the beginning of the war, Western Ukraine hasn't really been impacted. So, this is actually major, and it may actually draw attention once again towards the Ukraine war. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Anyways, for now, Russia is once again beginning to have success in Ukraine thanks to the destruction from Belarus. And now they're once again beginning to go towards Kiev. But just like always, Ukraine will be able to push back. But at the same time, at this point, the US is probably just like ending dual aid towards the EU in order for them to fund Ukraine. So yeah, but I mean, they kind of have Iran, but I mean, Iran are still trying to like maintain some things with Russia. But yeah, but they're slowly leaving Russia. So yeah, we're gonna have to see how that goes. Yes, Russia, they begin making more progress here, but eventually, Ukraine, they're gonna begin pushing back. Maybe some other major power begin, giving aid towards Ukraine. I don't know who that power is. Anyway, so Ukraine, they're gonna secure Kiev. They're also gonna call up Russian forces here, and they're actually gonna end up completely pushing the Belarusians out of this area. But in exchange, some troops are gonna once again re-enter here, threatening Kiev. But at the same time, Ukrainians will also be able to push back on this area here, and it's actually impressive since Ukraine have actually returned to the front line that we are actually now in OTL. Only remains this portion, which is kind of harder to like regain. But slowly but surely they are doing their job, and slowly but surely they're gonna be able to kick this out, kick these troops out, and for here the situation is returned once again the OTL front line, the current front line. And from here we're actually gonna be having a peace treaty being run up. So yeah, I mean, I don't think Ukraine is going to be conquering those areas anytime soon. Now, of course, I'm not going to say that Ukraine should cede those areas like the US president said, but yeah, it will take a lot of time for Ukraine to regain those areas. And it will certainly not happen for now in this scenario. So yeah, Ukraine will have to give up to these areas. Now, these areas are actually interesting, because there's actually being obviously not a fair referendum being done in these areas. They actually obviously they were fraudulent, so they voted in favor of being annexed into Russia. And it's also going to be the case here. So in this case, it becomes official that this whole area is a part of Russia. Now, and Ukraine are actually not really doing great. I mean, sure, they haven't lost their country, but they haven't been given permission to join the EU or join NATO here. I mean, here we are not really addressing NATO. That is probably dissolved to all EU Iran alliance thing, but yeah, but they can't even join the EU. So yeah, I mean, sure, they can still like be partners with the EU, but I'm not sure how the partnership will like go if until Russia will get angry about this. Yeah, Ukraine at this point are just simply gonna try to rebuild, and that's basically it. At least Moldova is safe since Russia they don't control any area of Ukraine that borders Moldova, so yeah, they're safe. I mean, I'm not sure how much Russia will want to invade Georgia because I mean that could make Iran saying something. Because I mean, Iran may actually now be fearing that Russia they may actually want to do something with the Caucasus or Central Asia just so they can take Iran for like as a punishment for betraying them, in ditching Russia and just going towards the West. I mean, in this case, it's just the EU. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure if this is Western anymore at this point. Anyways, yeah, I mean, and now what can I say? Like, there won't be any country that will be joining the EU. I mean, they're here to like is welcome countries to join the EU, but like, I don't want to like focus on joining. I want to focus on something like that is similar to war. So actually, we're gonna do this. We are gonna be having the now. Just because I put in red does not mean that is the attacking. Just simply because you and Iran are blue, so the only color that I can do for it is this red. But in this case, the UL and more so Iran are actually aggressors here now. Actually, I searched this up, and Iran and the Taliban, despite having like some details similar to each other, they don't actually get along pretty well despite both like being in the world anti-Western bloc and stuff like that. And that's because like the Taliban they actually persecute Persian minorities in Afghanistan. There's also like water disputes, and there's also all Sunni Shia divisions. So uh, you know, and Iran is gonna get help from the EU in order to get rid of this. So yeah, an invasion of the Taliban here will begin. Of course, the Taliban are the Taliban, so it's gonna take a lot of time. So yeah, go figure. But slowly but surely they will be able to take out those areas, especially with the help of the Persian minorities. Yeah, but it's taking a lot of time. But eventually it will motivate some guerrilla fighters to rise up in these areas. Against the Taliban government. I mean, aren't they are still being pushed back, but these guerrilla warfare, they're doing the job. I mean, they're still getting pushed back, but not as bad as Iran. Yeah, so with the Taliban fighting on two front board, they will soon become just one ginormous front. Yeah, the Taliban are gonna try to do as much damage as possible, but I mean, I'm not sure how it's gonna work in the long run. I mean, slowly but surely just getting worse, just getting worse, just getting worse. And at this point, they're just simply screwed up. It's over for them. Kabul will be taken over after a really huge bloody fight, and the Taliban will fall, and Iran and the Afghan guerrilla warfare rebels will be victorious. And the peacetreaty nobody change will just simply have previous Afghan government being restored, maybe under the condition to them from any alliance with the US. I mean, maybe they don't even want to actually. So yeah, now Iran feels safer, about having like a not so extremist neighbors. So yeah, they're fine. They're finer now. So yeah, so now what can we do? Let's actually address the whole Armenia thing. Armenia, they actually been moving very far away from Russia and closer to the EU, but Armenia they still maintain some sort of a relation with Iran. So yeah, this is probably the perfect scenario for Armenia. I mean, they probably now have guarantees from the EU and Iran that the Turkey and Azerbaijan will not do anything to them. And I mean, at the same time, Turkey they're still trying to like share with the EU the whole thing, for opposing, Israel and the US. So yeah, I don't think Turkey will want to ruin whatever small relations are building like with the EU, by invading Armenia. Probably same thing for Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan they do shit like that. Yeah, yeah. We're not really addressing Azerbaijan here. Yeah, but now should we actually address the whole, Israel thing? I don't know. Like, actually, let's do it. I really apologize to all my Israeli, but also Middle Eastern viewers in general. The front lines that I'm about to make are gonna make absolute no sense, but just bear with it. It's a fictional scenario. It's not real. Those front lines that you're about to see will never happen in real life. I can absolutely guarantee you that. So please don't come on my house and threaten me. Please don't. I'm just joking. It's a fictional scenario. It's not supposed to be real. I had the idea of this scenario for fun, so I don't want that this scenario that I wanted to do just for fun will be the cause of my eventual demise. So please just be civil, just be normal people. If you don't like what you're about to see, just close the video. It's no big deal. So please, just bear with me. So Israel, yeah, technically, so that means that, yeah. All right. So what can we do? So of course, Iran and Israel, they're gonna keep doing their whole missile thing, but some other countries will obviously inevitably get involved into this as well. And so yeah, and I mean, Israel, they're gonna do some interesting stuff in these areas, okay? But actually, like the US, they're gonna send a lot of aid towards Israel, but they're not really gonna be joining the war because they don't want a war with Europe yet. But we're actually gonna be having those countries joining the war on the side of yeah, Israel, and this is just gonna end up in a big military war because also Iraq will join this, and maybe Jordan will to want to do that. I mean, we really have to look at what Jordan will think, if it's convenient for them joining this war. Yeah. Anyways, these areas they're gonna fall. We are not gonna be talking about stuff that will be happening here, but yeah, those front lines are just they don't make any sense. Those will never happen in real life. I can guarantee you that. Just please don't be mad at me. Anyways, Iran and Arab will make a huge, great job of taking over all Kuwait, but at the same time, some Saudi forces will begin pushing away here into Iraq, trying to go towards, Baghdad. But, eventually, Iran will be able to finally secure the entire Strait of Hormuz. At this point, the UAE is just hitting. Yeah, we're not gonna be talking about that. Anyways, more Muslim forces are gonna begin pushing down here mm, into the eastern Saudi coast. Saudi forces are gonna keep pushing in, but eventually they're gonna be stopped, and eventually they're gonna begin getting pushed back. Anyways, the EU is actually gonna help a bit more directly in this war terror is fighting against the US Middle Eastern allies from Cyprus. There may be some also some Greek islands. A land is gonna be made here in Lebanon. They will actually liberate most of the country. Israel, they're fuming about this. They demand the EU stop this whole anti-Jewish thing that they're doing. Obviously, the US is totally not doing this, in order to stop the things that are happening there. No, yeah, they're totally doing it because they are anti-Jewish, right? Of course, it's sarcasm, right? Yeah, yeah. Israel's leaders, it's interesting. It's pretty interesting, uh, to put it mildly. Okay. Anyways, yeah, yeah, Iraq, thanks to Iran's help, they finally done it. And at this point, it's just complete stalemate. So, yeah, and probably some countries will actually leave this, such as, Qatar. No big surprise there. So yeah, so there are countries that are going to be setting a ceasefire. And now it only remains Israel. Israel, they're saying that those countries, they betray Israel. They're siding with Satan. That they're siding with the others. That, yeah, Israel is just saying a bunch of nonsense. So yeah, it's better to make them, shut their mouths. So yeah, they're gonna get invaded here from the north. Maybe some troops from this country, this country has allowed some new troops to, cross into the south of Israel. And yeah, at this point, Israel, they are screwed. And yeah, and now the most of the world is absolutely happy by what is just happening in this area. Like people are just like celebrating a lot. Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at this peace treaty. All right, so in this peace treaty, we will be having here we will be having yeah, Israel. Yeah, they don't exist anymore. Please don't be mad at me. Yeah, now it's just Palestine. Yeah. Anyways, and now looking over for Iran Turk, we're just gonna be getting more operations and probably some more control of this trade here. But here, Iraq, are gonna be gaining a good amount of land from Saudi Arabia as well as all of Kuwait. So yeah, Iraq, they are like the one who truly benefited from this war. So yeah, here we have it. Oh my god, that's just like looks really precious. So yeah, also the countries didn't lose anything. They were forced to pay war reparations, to Iran, maybe also towards the EU. So yeah, and this is just like looking with even less sense now. Like it's just making less and less sense. Anyways, now let's go and take a look at alliances. So yeah, as I said, we're actually gonna be having the whole EU-Iran alliance thing actually expanding. It's now going to include Iraq, and it's also going to include Lebanon. I mean, it's alliance, so they're not in the EU. Remember that. These countries are just allies to the EU, and just put them like to, because I, I want to. Okay, Palestine, they don't join it, but of course, they're in complete support of this alliance. So yeah, so shall we now do the next phase? I mean, do we really have anything else to do? Yeah, no, we actually sorted out like the current conflict. So yeah, it's time to finally make this stuff happen. So yeah, basically the US and Russia, yeah, that just happened. And this is obviously huge. And yeah, it's gonna be an interesting war. I mean, this will probably just make countries like Italy not even more not want to be in the blue team, because yeah, because they don't actually hold like the worst of relations, with the current US leadership. But yeah, it's just not. Yeah, I mean, there's also like Russia and Belarus. Yeah, it's just these are some pretty interesting front lines. Like if you actually show like a front lines like this towards someone from like 2022 or 2023, like they will just like kill you. Like that just doesn't make any sense. Like I having a heart attack. I'm having a headache from watching these front lines. Yeah, but for someone like now, it may not actually be like that much nonsense kind of stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. That's what I'm trying to say. It's gonna be interesting, and obviously some other countries will get involved into this as well. Such as Ukraine. We're also gonna be having Georgia getting involved into this. Actually, I'm not sure about Georgia. You know what? Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. And I mean, will Mexico, want to deal with the U.S.? Mm, Probably not. Yeah, I'm just gonna be, keeping it like this. So yeah. Anyways, first of all, Abkhazia, South Asia. Well, now it's Russia occupies all of Georgia, and there's probably a lot of bombardment between Russia and Iran. Yeah. Anyways, for Ukraine, Russia, they were actually absolutely prepared for this. They were so prepared for this. So yeah, and at this point, they're actually bordering Moldova, so now Moldova is pretty scared, but still Kiev not really captured. But now it's really under a lot of complete danger. Russia was prepared about Ukraine. Well, guess what? The Lithuania was prepared about Kaliningrad and most of Belarus. Yeah, how do you like that, Russia? Well, Russia was also prepared about some stuff in the Baltics, so yeah. Well, Finland was prepared about getting really close to St. Petersburg, so how do you like that, Russia? Yeah, it's becoming pretty interesting to say the least. I'm not really sure if the blue team will be able to win this, because I mean, I don't know if the US will like do a land invasion, even if they don't, like they're like gonna be sending a lot of troops over to Russia. So yeah, the blue team will eventually not really be able to hold this front line anymore. So yeah, at this moment the US is just gonna call out this new ally. Yeah, these front lines they don't make any sense. Like seriously, like why am I even doing this? Like I'm just gonna get completely slaughtered eventually for making this kind of front lines. Yeah, I mean, then there's also like the comfortable India, but we are not gonna be addressing this stuff. we are not gonna be addressing. We are not. We are definitely not gonna be addressing this stuff since I don't want to raise even more my chances of being like completely tortured, by some fanatics of these countries. Yeah, we are definitely not gonna be including other countries into this. My life is precious. I don't want to risk it. Okay. I just having a lot of pain by making this video. Like seriously, like, why did I even came up with it with this idea? Anyways, yeah, China and Taiwan will take out these areas, and Russia was focused on this area. So yeah, now Russia is gonna be distracted a little bit, but it seems like China will not like be able to reach Moscow. Yeah, still it's a little it's a little bit of concern for Russia. So yeah, they're gonna pull out some troops out of the Baltics. Meanwhile, Finland are actually also gonna be able to secure um this complete area. And they're actually gonna be able to begin pushing back in some areas here of Ukraine. But at the same time, Russian forces will be able to push back just a little bit in Belarus, almost retaking Minsk. And anyways, at this point, Iran is gonna have permission from Armenia to put some of the troops here. So yeah, now some areas of Georgia will begin getting liberated, including almost the capital. And yeah, it's definitely an interesting scenario, and I actually want to do this quickly. So yeah, eventually it will be a lot of back and forth, but eventually Ukraine will be almost completely liberated. Eventually Belarus will just like see a revolution, and they will end up falling. Eventually, yeah, troops will Russian troops will be pushed out of the Baltics, with St. Petersburg in an even greater danger. And eventually then Ukraine, they will be able to liberate this area. After a lot of years of fighting, also these areas will be liberated, and eventually also Georgia will be liberated as well. Yeah, and just like that, the blue team has technically won this war. They don't really have any plans of invading Russia. Yeah, but they basically won the war. So yeah, I guess this war planned by the US and Russia really backfired because then China too joined this war. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at this peace treaty. All right, so first of all, Georgia are gonna like gain Abkhazia and Zaporizhzhia back. So yeah, that's good for Georgia. Anyways, then Finland are gonna be getting some to like pre-war two claims back. So yeah, a land like this, and probably also access to the Arctic Sea. So yeah, I'm actually gonna be making a front line like this, since I think it looks better that way, if I'm being honest. Okay, then yeah, where so Ukraine will get its land back. So yeah, I'm gonna try to make the front line as much sense as possible. So yeah, the front line was something like that. So yeah, now it's Ukrainian once again. So yeah, let's do this. Okay, and we're actually gonna be hearing later getting all of this. Please, I'm really interested in that. And yeah, also Belarus will be China will just get more reparations right away. Yeah, also we're not really focused on China, so yeah, they're not gonna be getting anything. Not like they really need anything, if I'm being honest. Anyways, Belarus itself will also get a new government, more like democratic pro-EU government, so they will join the EU. From here, I feel like that with Georgia and Ukraine like not like being impeded by Russia anymore. They will also to be able to join the EU. So these are not like allies. These are like true EU members. Like these are EU allies, including us 11. Like all of this is actually the EU. So yeah, eventually more countries will actually end up joining the EU. Yeah, Russia. I mean, they themselves like they just lost some like land that they themselves like they're still existing. Even yeah, eventually a revolution happened in Russia. You could say the same thing about the US, even if they like didn't really lose anything. They probably didn't really have to pay any more reparations, but still like it could still inspire a change of power and leadership in the US. You know, we'll have to see, but not now and not today because this is actually where this scenario ends. Yeah, I how much time I recorded? Okay, okay, 30 minutes. I seriously apologize to I seriously apologize if you like felt really bad while watching this video. These problems you saw don't make any absolute sense. They will most certainly 1000% never happen in real life. Like it's just completely fictional. So yeah, so don't come at my house, don't come at my home. I did this dictionary just for fun. I wanted to experiment. I wanted to see what could have happened with this alliance being formed, but it's completely unrealistic. So you can be fine. Please do not grab any object and come at my house and come at my home. Please just don't. Okay, I think it's better that I end this video now. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video and you totally didn't get mad about it. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. You know, if I still live. Yeah, bye.